Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Saturday, December the 28th, which makes this the news for Friday, December the 27th, day 1038 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. I'm Peter Alexievich, coming to you live at 5 from Kyiv, this major European capital currently under siege. Hey, Marco, how you doing? I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, Nicola Jones. Hang on a second here. Let me see if I can get this stupid thing. I need a new stand for my phone. My buddy Serge gave me this one before he left for Romania. There we go. And it has seen better days. I've certainly made good use of it the last year, that's for sure. Hey, the Doc. How you doing? Hey, Nightshade. Eli's here. Cheyenne is here. Hey, Darlene. Nicola Jones. Is Blue Ariel Silk here yet? She is the sponsor of tonight's live. Hey, Tom. If anybody sees Blue Ariel's around, thank her. She is the sponsor of tonight's live. Next week, I'm going to do something special. There's some guys here who really have gone out of their way for me that I often refer to as the board of directors. And next week, all of next week's lives will be sponsored by the board of directors. Fitz, Dark Irish, Chris Carter, Arn, why am I drawing a blank? Chris Carter, Arn. Oh, and then and Ballerina. And then my two guys in San Diego who have been so good to me, Bobby and Dan Ballard. So those guys, they get the sponsorships every night next week. And with my deep gratitude for everything they do for me. I really appreciate it. And for this channel. Hey, Anthony. But tonight it's Blue Ariel Silk. So thank her if you see her around. Anyway, hey, Cheyenne. Hey, Bobby. How's everybody doing tonight? So I feel a little... Hey, Michael, I've been giggling all day because shit is just going so wrong for the Russians. And it's apparent. It's obvious. I mean, look on Christmas Day, the Russians hit Ukraine with 78 missiles and 106 drones, right? Today it was 24. They managed to scrounge up 24 today to send. Things are not going well over there. And there's a bunch of fuck-ups and just real clown car shit we can talk about today. So Make 68904 there says Finland captured a Russian spy boat. They sure did, Make. They sure did. Thanks, Nightshade. I saw that commercial. That was funny. That's what I'm talking about, man. Like, these guys are so far removed from reality. The shit that comes out of their mouths, you're just like, what world are you living in? And we'll talk about some of that shit tonight. But let's start with the Eagle S, right? So makes the point that the Finns did something very interesting this time around, right? When the Yang P dropped its anchor and cut those communication cables between Sweden and Lithuania and Finland and Germany. Nobody knew what to do. Half a dozen countries surrounded the ship at sea and held it there and wouldn't let it leave and then finally got it to port, right? But not this time. Not with the Estonia Link 2 lines being cut. No. Two Finnish Coast Guard copters landed on the boat, seized the boat, dragged it to port, determined that it was in fact a Russian spy boat, got the marine tracking data that showed it's slowing down right at the moment of before the disruption in power, drop its anchor, and its speed slow to 1/3 its normal speed because now it's dragging its anchor. And they can see it all on the marine data recorders. Not only that, it turns out that this ship has had other names in the past. This is a big thing with the Russians, changing the names of ships, which we know is a mistake. It's bad luck to change the name of a boat, right? You don't change the name of a boat. Well, they've been changing the names of these boats back and forth all the time. And so it turns out that this ship, which is currently flying under a Cook Island flag with the name Eagle S, is in fact a Russian spy ship. And so it has been dragged to port. It has been seized. The crew is being questioned. And we may have some justice in this thing. But this is where we're at. We got to start dealing with the Russians when they flagrantly sabotage our communications and electrical networks out in the open. Got to do it. Got to do it. Got to do it. Got to do it. Now somebody mentioned the Azerbaijani flight there. Yeah, Malik, I don't really bring people live in my lives. You must not have been here before. We gotta react to these things. There have to be consequences when the Russians commit acts of aggression against us. We can't just write it off anymore because they're getting away with this shit. And so they think that they can do more. They're going to keep pushing the boundaries. So we got to start seizing ships. I'm all in favor of a blockade of the northern ports. Blockade Kaliningrad, blockade Murmansk, blockade them all. Don't let a single ship transit in or out of those Russian ports. That's my opinion. Now, on the subject of the Azeri flights, the Azeris are demanding that the Russians acknowledge that they shot the plane down. The Azeris, who are currently at the Eurasian Economic Forum in St. Petersburg, and who have long-standing ties to the Kremlin, are demanding that the Russians acknowledge that they shot this plane down and pay compensation. Now, the evidence that a Panzer 1A shot this plane down is pretty compelling. The damage to the plane is certainly not caused by a flock of birds, which is what the Russians said happened. Right. So first, the Russians are using electronic warfare technology to jam communications because they're trying to jam Ukrainian drones coming into Grozny, which was under a drone attack at the time. But they didn't shut down commercial aviation. So they're running electronic warfare that's affecting the plane's ability to communicate. Insanity, right? So now the plane gets shot down by accident, which, if you're going to leave commercial airports open when you're under an air alert, that kind of thing is going to happen. But here's the worst part. Like, this just shows the Russians for who they really are. They wouldn't let the plane land in Russia. They forced it to go to Kazakhstan, believing that it would go down over the Caspian Sea and all evidence of their having shot it down would be lost at the bottom of the Caspian Sea. Hey, Anthony. Yes, Bobby, that is the general consensus now. They definitely, hey, Jay, they definitely seem to have diverted the plane in the hopes that it would be lost. I know Russians are weak. We know Russians are weak. You see it all the time. Just look at what Putin did at during his speech yesterday at the Eurasian conference, right? He was talking about the need to get gas to places like Austria, Czech Republic, Moldova, right, that depend on the gas being translated through Ukraine right now. Hey, Jeff Robbins, I'll take that note, please. Always false threats, right? So Putin gets up there and he says Poland should reopen the Yamal line. The Yamal line should be reopened. Poland had no right to shut it down. We should reopen that if the Ukrainians aren't going to transit our gas. The only problem is it was Russia that shut that pipeline down. Gazprom made a fucking promotional video about it. In the video, right, Julian, exactly, right? Get this, in the promotional video that Gazprom made, they show their guys turning off the taps, right? And then they show pictures of Europeans freezing in their homes because they don't have the gas from great leader in the Kremlin. Oh, our lives are so bad and miserable now that we don't have Russia as a friend. Your life is desperate and miserable when you have Russia as a friend. I agree. The pilots on the Azerbaijani flight are the heroes of that story. They saved. Everybody was supposed to be unalived. They saved 28 people at last count. So yes, I agree. I couldn't agree more. All right, so now the Azeris, for their part, Popcornus, hold that thought for 1 second because I got a story about Nicole Pashinyan. In 1 second, pal. Let's do that next. So, well, can you believe it? We won the appeal. I am shocked and amazed. Hey, Chris Carter, how you doing, buddy? We won the appeal. How about that? First time for everything. First time for everything. Amazing. Hey, Mad Mike. Hey, Dirty Hamster. Hey, Nicola Jones. Hey, Fitz, we won the appeal. Can you believe it? Holy cowabunga. There might just be some justice in the world. Hey, Cake Boy and Banjo. Hey, Nicola. Hey, Jeff Robbins. Yeah, we won. Can you believe that shit? Hey, Rocco. Yeah, I know. Yay. I got banned, John, as I often do. But this appeal, we won. I thought for sure we were going to be off. No, Trump's peace plan is not based on reality. And actually, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight. Trump, Zelensky's smart. He understands Donald Trump. Donald Trump wants himself a Nobel Peace Prize because Obama got one. And come on, Fitz, this place isn't run by Democrats. Hey, Steve B. So, mostly I'm the bug pal. But look, forget that, Unabomber. Forget that. Trump is out of his mind. And one of the things that he says in his peace plan is that he's going to convince the Ukrainians to not join NATO for 10 years. That part of Trump's peace plan is that Ukraine suspends its NATO ambitions for 10 years. Well, Putin at the Eurasian Economic Conference yesterday stated very clearly, Ukraine must never be in NATO. Not, quote unquote, not today, not tomorrow, not in 10 years. So while Zelensky is playing Zelensky is playing Trump and saying, hey, I'm with you, pal. We need to make concessions. You're right. I'll make concessions. I'm with you. We'll get you that Nobel Peace Prize. Putin, he said, niet, 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 niet. And if Putin continues to pursue those maximalist gains, then he could very well turn Trump against him, which would be the best thing that could happen. We won the appeal. Can you believe it? Julian, you don't know that. Much less deserving people than Trump have won. And the Ukrainians have nominated him. A Ukrainian member of parliament nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. The Ukrainians are playing into this Nobel desire of his. And I think it's very smart. Yes, Paul, we are back. I think it's very smart. I do. Right? You want to get Trump on your side, you got to play to his narcissism. It's just that simple. Now, I don't know that the United States can afford to do that, because I think the damage that another 4 years of a Trump presidency will do is untold. But we shall see. We shall see. The problem with Trump is nobody knows what he's going to do. Nobody has any idea. It's very savvy, Sarah. It's very, very savvy of the Ukrainians to play to Trump's narcissism like they are. Yes. John, Ukraine is not asking for its nuclear weapons back. I can assure everybody here that Ukraine, which is a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, if they wanted nuclear weapons, they could have them. Remember, this was the center of weapons production for the Soviet Union. All the nuclear physicists are here. All the nuclear scientists are here. All of the technology. They got 4 nuclear reactors. They have everything. They could easily get their hands on a centrifuge. Yeah. Hey, Peter, have you heard anything of Russia preparing for a retaliatory strike on NATO? What does that even mean? NATO hasn't struck Russia. Like, why would it be retaliatory? Listen, if Russia strikes NATO, this whole thing's over. If NATO's in a position where they have to invoke Article 5 because of a direct attack, Russia's done. It's over. And the 1991 borders are back. He never follows through. Trump never follows through. Yeah, Laurel, it's tough, isn't it, with the family? NATO countries should allow private mercenary security companies to operate in Ukraine. Well, that's not up to NATO countries. That's up to the Ukrainians, right? Trump just truthed to have SCOTUS save TikTok. Oh, brother. Japan. Japan is in the house. Well, it's early in the morning for you, right? I think for you and me both, it's already Saturday. But here it's just past midnight. You know, PNWFNPC, I don't think you've read the Budapest Memoranda, because there's really nothing in that. Oh, this stupid thing. Hold on. The language of the Budapest Memoranda is so tepid, so open to interpretation. There's nothing Nothing there. Japan, for its part, is mostly on the humanitarian aid side and the reconstruction side. They haven't done much in terms of weapons procurement or that kind of thing, but they're very strongly on the side of rebuilding Ukraine. Are the Ukrainians getting Australian Abrams? I thought just Australia ordered Abrams. Australians has an order in for new Abrams, is all I know about. Merry Christmas, effing hell, Happy New Year. I don't know what 59 is, Hucka. Yeah, the trolls have stepped up there. So, you know, it goes in waves, right? As I understand it, the West Ghana bot farm didn't get paid for 4 months, and they finally quit. And so there was a slack, and then they hired some new people in South Africa. Okay, but we didn't give our word in the Budapest Memoranda about anything. Certainly not about military assistance. There's not a single thing in there about providing military assistance, economic aid, humanitarian aid. No military. So we've gone above and beyond. The Australians are getting 59 Abrams, is that what it is? Or the Australians are sending 59 Abrams to Ukraine. I don't know about any of that, if that's the case. What is going on here? I did not invite this person in. Did one of the moderators invite this person in? Why is this person in my live who I do not know? Why is this like this? Who did this? By whom? And why am I looking at this screen? All right, I'm going to end the live and start it again. Hey, Sarge. Hey, Marco. Hey, Hardley. Hey, Francis Courtney. Stin -2. Stin -2. STN -2. That rings a bell. What is that? Hey, Steve Paul. Hey, Cher Weber. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. STN -2. Hey, Michael Daly. Hey, Steve with a V. Oh, what a night, huh? I should have just given up and gone to bed. I mean, there's definitely been some shenanigans lately. Hey, Julian. Like the music under my, probably an error click. You're right, Lars. That's probably all it was. Sorry about that, STN -2. Chris Carter, Chef Deb, Cheyenne, everybody's coming back in. Hey, Nicola. Sorry about that. I don't know what I did. Hey, Big Hawk. Again, guys, the sponsor of this misadventure of a live is Blue Ariel Silk. Thank you, Blue Ariel Silk. Hey, Hardly. Why is Putin talking peace? Well, he is and he isn't, Michael, right? He is desperate to stop this conflict. That is clear. But he refuses to lose. So he's not going to negotiate. But he is talking peace. Robert Fico has volunteered to host the peace negotiations. And third time's the charm. And Robert Fico is just an ass-kissing bootlicker of the Kremlin's, who has failed completely to provide gas for his people, knowing full well that the transit deal across Ukraine was coming to an end on the 1st of this year. Right? Knew it. They knew it. The Austrians have made plans. The Czechs have made plans. The Moldovans have made plans. Only the Hungarians and the Slovakians haven't, because Putin kept telling him, don't worry, by the time we get to January 1st, we're going to have a solution. Don't worry. We will have won by then, blah, blah, blah. Only about 2 minutes, Eli. Putin has no intention of stopping this war. In his mind, Ukraine does not exist. It has no need to exist. And he intends to absorb it into the Russian Empire under the Union flag, like he intends to do to Belarus. So the idea that he has changed in any way is nonsense. And he is pushing his maximalist agenda onto Trump, expecting Trump to give him everything he wants. I'm not sure that's going to work out for him. Zelensky is playing politics with Trump, making concessions, apparently, right, at least to Trump. So I don't know. But Putin is hardly talking peace. I mean, he said in his address to the nation, the town hall last Thursday, he said that he would not deal with Zelensky. Zelensky is an illegitimate government. And so if you're not going to deal with the legitimate government of the country, if you're going to badmouth them and say you won't deal with them, well, who exactly are you making peace with? We make peace with our enemies, not our friends. And Zelensky is the guy in charge, no matter what Putin says. Hey, Daryl Roberts. Yeah, I don't really know what that means, Julian, but in my mind, he's certainly playing politics quite brilliantly. Altoona Vault. You know, you're going to think that I'm crazy when I say this, but I love Altoona. I have never been in Altoona that I didn't have a good time. Never once. Altoona is a good time. Well, first I got banned, and then I hit a wrong button, and I didn't know how to fix it, so I had to go out and come back in again. You know, Raji, it's just a mess. Oh, yeah, I know Altoona. I'm from Scranton. The last place I lived in Pennsylvania was Erie. I once drove 4.5 hours to Altoona just to pick a girl up, to take her back to my place, 4.5 hours the other way. I've met some great girls in Altoona, man. Let me tell you. Right, Jeff? I agree. Zelensky is smart. He knows how to play his audience. Hey, Samso. Green, blue, white. I have no idea what Trump is going to do. I wouldn't even pretend to guess. We can speculate all we want, but we're going to have to deal with it one body blow at a time as it comes. Well, the point of Zelensky is that it was Ukraine's choice. That's what a democracy is. They elected him. It's their choice, not a choice thrust on them by the Kremlin. For good or for bad, you can say what you want. That's what freedom of speech is in a democracy, is you get to say things like you just said. And the people who are telling you off get to tell you off. Ukraine can absolutely win with Europe's support. Light, I agree. Trump is a wild card and not in a good way. I couldn't agree more. Well, Jonathan Allen, I hope so. Well, TikTok is a private platform. Fits. So the problem that I have with it is the reasonableness of things. Being judged by an AI and with no appeal mechanism. And it's not just that you're judged by an AI, you're judged by people with a very different level of tolerance for speech. Let's face facts. The Chinese are not known for their outspokenness or irreverence. That's us. Yeah, Sarah, a lot of people compare Zelensky to Churchill. He's certainly, he's a very effective communicator in languages that are not his own. That's very impressive. Thank you for the kind words, Steve Lee. I try. Keeping the status quo, how much longer can Ukraine maintain? God, I wish I knew. I'll tell you, I was just out near the front. I was out in Kramatorsk and the Donbass for a couple days. And while life there is extremely difficult, one thing I can tell you for sure, the morale of the Ukrainian troops is very high. I mean, very, very high. I spent some time with Frontline guys who are there every day. Some of them have been on their positions for a year. And their morale is very, very high. Thanks, Danielle. Ukraine has a bunch of F-16s. We don't know how many. They are engaged virtually every day in air defense. Hey, Betty Thompson, how you feeling? All his other cronies are waiting with ideas that are worse. Are you talking about Putin, Mrs. Toad? It's hard when you use pronouns like that. I don't know what you're referring to. Hero of Slava. New Year's, I don't know yet. Oh, you meant Trump. Ugh, please. The wealthiest cabinet in the history of America. The wealthiest cabinet ever. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing for New Year's. I don't really have any plans as of yet. There's a party tomorrow I'm going to. Um, but for the actual New Year's, I don't know. Yeah, Altoona Vault, I definitely never said anything like even remotely like that. I don't know what you heard, but I never said that Ukraine had lost 50% of their fighters. That's not true. That's not a real thing at all. They are a good bunch, aren't they, Blue Aerials? Yes, they are. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I don't know what you heard, but I think everybody else on that's in the comments right now will tell you I have never said anything even remotely like that. When I was there, I was being kept awake by fireworks. I don't know what that means. When you were where? No problem, Altoona. Yeah, laughter is the best medicine. We couldn't do an improv show in December because of people's schedules. So we did a joint piece with a group called Storytelling Night. We did about 40 minutes of material, and we had a nice evening. I was banned from the live at the time, Fitz, so I couldn't stream it. We do have some recordings. Maybe I'll try to post those. Oh, Betty, I'm glad to hear you're doing well. Good. How will Azerbaijan respond to Russia downing their civilian planes? So far, Sarge, the Azeris are demanding an apology and an acknowledgement from the Russians of what they did. They're demanding compensation for those that were unalived in this tragic accident or this tragic happening because nobody had to die. All the Russians had to do was let that plane land instead of forcing it out over the Caspian where they were hoping it would be lost and they could deny that they had anything to do with it because there'd be no evidence. It would be at the bottom of the Caspian Sea. Disgusting, right? So the Azeris, for their part, they are demanding compensation, they are demanding acknowledgement, they are demanding an apology. They have also stopped flights to Russia. At least 12 routes that are currently being flown to Moscow, Petersburg, Volgograd, Grozny, Vladivostok, a dozen routes into Russia. No more. So they're not happy. Thanks, Laurel. I appreciate that. We are putting together a show for January, the last Saturday of the month at Gonzo Bar Padilla. Yeah, they do have a thing for making planes disappear, even their own. Yeah, I'm going to get some rest, but I want to put some time in on this thing because we got cut off there. And I don't know, how long are we back on for? It doesn't matter. When you're on an hour, a thing comes up and tells you. Russian isolation grows. Ukraine people are very strong, yes. Russian isolation grows. It's a pariah nation in an axis of evil with two other pariah nations. Puzzle piece. That's what comes up, Paul Brown. You're exactly right. One of those prove you're human things or you're still here things. Hey, Bip. I didn't really do the news tonight. I'm just doing Q&A because we've had some disturbances tonight. But if you have any questions about specific things, I'm happy to answer them. And yes, I'm looking forward to my weekend too. F and hell, that's what I want to know. When will they blockade the Baltic from the Russians and cut this shit out? I'm with you. Blockade them. It's time for a naval blockade of the northern ports. I mean, not that well, I don't know anymore with climate change. There was a time that those ports up north always froze. That's why having Kaliningrad and having Sevastopol was so important to them. They were the only ports that didn't freeze in the winter. There's only a handful of Wagner fighters left in Africa. As I understand it, there was as many as 50,000 at one time. Now it's estimated there's less than 5. So, if blocked, will Russia see this as a declaration of war by NATO? Let them. They haven't even declared war against Ukraine yet. Oh, yeah, no, the heat, well, at least in my building is good, Fitz. I mean, it came on late this year. I mean, it really came on late, man. It came on like November 4th, I want to say. That's like 2.5 weeks late. And there were a couple weeks there where it was cold. I mean, it was chilly, right? Blackouts have stopped. We haven't had a blackout in the last 24 hours. Now, I haven't seen any pew-pew of Russian on Russian in the Russian Federation. Acts of war, declarations of war, they're... Like I said, nobody's declared war in this conflict. Technically, this is not a war. Do you think we can beat the Russians in a conventional war? The Ukrainians are beating the Russians in a conventional war. The problem, Michael, is that the Russian people are doing very well right now. Now, not everybody, but everybody who sent somebody to the SMO got that big, fat $20,000 sign-up bonus. Everybody who lost somebody in the SMO could have gotten as much as, I think the top payment is $400,000. So the Russian people are rolling in it. Real wages are up. Yes, inflation is up, but real wages are up and keeping pace with inflation. Most of the Russians think they're doing great. That is the problem. Now, the pensioners are having a hard time. The poor people are having a hard time. When they're going to crack is another question. And we've seen a double dozen kind of sabotage terrorist attacks inside of Moscow and St. Petersburg since last Thursday, since Putin did his town hall. They've blown up Molotov cocktails into banks, post offices, recruitment centers, of course. Just two electric buses in Moscow caught on fire today. It's not clear whether that was a fault in the system or some kind of partisan activity. So there is some internal strife, no two ways about it. Ukraine is just a little bit smaller than Texas, Fitz, correct. But it's a good comparison. And Kyiv is just a little bit bigger than New York City, which I just found out the other day. I have often said that no city in the world reminds me as much of New York as this one does. And I lived in Manhattan for 7 years. So I know New York, and this city has that, right, not like Midtown. Midtown is all its own thing. But like the Village, like Brooklyn, like Bed-Stuy, like Harlem, Like those areas all exist here in Ukraine, or ones that remind me of them. Queens. You want to go to Queens, just cross the river. It's the same here. I mean, Russia could bring this whole war to an end just by attacking a NATO country. That would put an end to everything real fast. Or by using a tactical nuke. That would also draw the wrath of the world. The ruble did take a tumble today, about 5% of its value, right? If I'm not mistaken, the last number I saw was 105.79. I'm not sure where it closed the day, but I think the last number I saw was 105.79 today. So it lost about 5% of its value overnight. And that's in a world where no one's trading it, where the market for it is shut down, where the demand for it is as minimal as it could possibly be. Yeah, it's a great town. Better farmland than Texas. Generally speaking, that is true, Mrs. Toad. Are your Russians in Russia or are they outside of Russia, Laurel? The problem is that it doesn't matter what the Russian people think or say. It only matters what Putin wants. And if he wants them to sacrifice themselves for him and his grand vision, they're going to do it. We see it every day. Blue Ariel Silk, that's a current quote, 105.73. So right about where I saw it earlier. Will another year fighting cause more trouble for Russia? Russia can't fight another year. All of the analysts, all of the economists agree. They do not have the resources to last another year. They don't have it. Any truth to the rumor about Trump and TikTok? I don't know what the rumor is. And Laurel, you said in Russia. Interesting. Oh no, Fitz, there's somebody here calling themselves Irish liberal. Trump posted an amicus brief stating TikTok should stay. Did he really? Didn't he start the whole TikTok ban? We technically are not supposed to be doing assassinations. James Boudreau, I won my appeal. Can you believe it? Fascinating. Well, JR, I got banned. So in the first half hour of my live, like in the first 10 minutes, I think. I don't think I lasted 10 minutes tonight. And they banned me. But then about an hour later, the ban was removed. So I came back. Can the Russian military turn on Putin? They can, sure. That would be great. That would make life easy if these guys would just point their guns at their real enemy. TikTok did help him win the presidency, which is exactly why we should ban it. Oh, I always get banned for hate and hateful speech and hateful behaviors. Because you know me, I'm just the worst. Well, thanks, James. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? It goes with the territory. I just wish that we had some way that, like, all of you could, like, submit a form that says bullshit, right? Restore the live creators live or something. But there's nothing. There's no appeal but the AI. There's no way you can talk to a person. you can't get a fair hearing. And it's most bothersome to me. I say, Lovey, it's most bothersome to me. The Russian military has the equivalent of the NVKD behind them? How old are you? The NVKD. You shouldn't even know what that is. Is Putin hoping Trump will give in to his aggressive demands? Oh, I think Putin fully expects Trump to do exactly what he tells him to. And I think that might be a mistake. That might be the hubris that does him in. Good night, BT. Thanks for hanging out, man. Hey, Lava Mind. Right. Thanks, milady. I know some people that's tried months to talk to a real person. Yeah, it's pointless, man. I've tried. There's no getting through. I say, old chap, are you joshing me? Are you joshing me with that cuppa? I wish I could reach the biscuits. I baked oatmeal raisin cookies tonight. I was just having one when the word came in that we were back. Yeah, clearly you are a student of Russian history. So the FSB is a problem. There's no doubt about it, especially because it seems to have merged with the gangsterism and organized crime of the 1990s. There doesn't seem to be a distinction between those two organizations. Thanks, Lars. That's very thoughtful. Oh, apple pie. I haven't baked an apple pie. I haven't baked a pie since I've been in this country. Huh. Maybe it's time. I don't own a rolling pin, though. Yeah, I could use a bottle of water. The Czechis. I used to know a Czechist, this blonde. She used to wear this leather coat and leather hat. I mean, obviously a honeypot, but what the hell? Hey. No, milady, you can't send anything here. It's very difficult to send anything here. Now, yeah, Maddie, I got my appeal was approved. Now, if you're in Great Britain, Finland, the Netherlands, I know people in those places that are always driving aid to Ukraine. So you could probably get a box in their truck or whatever. But other than that, we've had terrible failures trying to ship to Ukraine. The only one who's had any success is my buddy Daniel Ballard. I got two boys in San Diego, Dan Ballard and Bobby, and they have been extremely helpful with managing my storage locker. And the only one that's had any success getting me anything here is Dan Ballard. So money is fine. Please send money. Please send money. Everybody was very generous at Christmas, and I really appreciate it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do quite yet. I might just hold on to it since it's the only kind of extra cash I've had in well over a year. I don't know where milady is. But Dutch Cossack is in the Netherlands, and he comes in all the time. Stores are full. Consumer goods are very difficult to get. Wait, let me rephrase that. Food stores are great. No problems. Shelves are stocked. Things are very reasonably priced. Life is good. For me to try to buy a suit here is nearly impossible. You know, I can think of half a dozen places in Scranton that I could go spend $200 and get a decent suit. That is not the case here. Nothing fits me in this country. The clothes are not cut for men like me. If I wanted to buy a suit, it would cost $1,000 easily. Rezozov. I don't know what that is or even what country that's in. Oh yeah, Ukraine can last. Ukraine can definitely last. It just needs a little help. Yeah, I tend to agree with Lars. I think Ukraine has a much longer future than the Russian Federation. I think that they've reached a point of no return. They've destroyed their consumer economy, what little they had. They've impoverished their own people. Interest rates are killing business. We're going to see record bankruptcies in 2025. Bobby, we got lucky tonight. We won our appeal. Can you believe it, man? We won the appeal. If you don't follow this channel, one of the things you could do to help me out is follow the channel. I am so close to 26,000 followers, and I would really like to get to 26,000 before the first of the year. That would be a nice Christmas present, especially because it took so long to get from 20 to 25. Holy shit. It was 6 months. Effing hell, almost certainly, if you ask me. We're going to see plugs pop up in the Siberian pipeline. And there's just no doubt about it, I don't think. Okay, I am less than 100 people from 26,000 followers. 25.9. Oh, I hope you're feeling better. Putin rushed into this because demographics was closing his window of opportunity. I've got to do some videos about the demographic crisis inside Russia. That's a good point. Thanks, Julian. God, I would love a real pizza. You know who has decent pizza is the Polish. Maybe I'll go to Warsaw for a couple days and try to buy. Well, I want to wait until Dan Ballard is supposed to send me some clothes. When those get here, I'll be able to assess where my wardrobe's at and where the gaps are. And maybe I'll be able to get some new pair of pants or something. Anything Eagle S. What does this say here? No, Fitz, that's not how it works. You know that. How does Putin keep control with his failing leadership in wars? I don't know how any of these people keep control. Like, I just don't get it. Who follows a maniac like Vladimir Putin? Well, I guess anybody who doesn't want to be, unalived. That's the problem in Russia. No wonder I didn't know about it, Julian. If it's the posh place for all the VIPs, I would not know about that place. You know, Eli, I'm not interested. PT did that. I wish he was still here. But when we were trying to get to 10,000, if you remember, PT made a phony account and joined, and I took one look at it and I told him to stop it, and I blocked him immediately. because that's not what I want. I mean, I have 26,000 followers, and likely the majority of them have some interest in the content, legitimate interest. They're not trolls, they're not bots. Some percentage of them are, but not the overwhelming percentage that so many people indulge. We got New Zealand, Japan, Croatia, America. It's amazing. I do love the internet. Yeah, Laurel sums it up pretty nicely there. They keep control by disinformation and internal teaism. Thank you, New Zealand Boomer. So yeah, guys, if you don't follow the channel, it would be great if you could please help me get to that 26,000 before the first of the year. I am so grateful for the fact that we do not have a ban. Not yet, anyway. Oh, please, Feisty. At this rate, the 51st state will be Greenland. Putin's dream is the USSR. You know, a truck went into battle in the Donetsk region the other day, flying a CCCP flag, a USSR flag. Like, unreal. And Putin just put up a new statue to Stalin. Can we sell out to Denmark? Can this war be Afghanistan in? I don't know what you mean by that. Yeah, Bobby, I do think that. I do think that the whole regime is very brittle, and I think any stressor could bring it down. Yeah, I should look for some Soviet stuff while I'm here. See if I can't pick up a few coins or something. Yeah, Denmark, man. Free education, free health care. I wouldn't mind getting in on that shiznit. Oh, can this war be Putin's Afghanistan? Oh, it is. There's no two ways about it. It is. Hey, Pete. Pete, to the best of my knowledge, the stories of a Ukrainian F-16 being shot down over Zaporizhia are pure fiction. I think the Russians are saying it because yesterday they had an Su-25 collide midair with a Zala drone, and it took both of the planes out. And an Su-25 is not an F-16, but they're kind of the same shape. Maybe you could misperceive one as the other. So I think that particular disinformation campaign has something to do with distracting from the loss of another Su-25 in a friendly fires kind of situation. So that's all I know about that. Russia's economy is most definitely failing, New Zealand Boomer. How long can the economy hang on? So here's my understanding from the consensus of economists that I listen to. The economy is in trouble. The economy is overheated. because the Russians are printing money like mad and pouring it into defense. Next year's budget, 40% of the federal budget is for internal security or defense. That's not sustainable. That's not a world to live in. The current core interest rate is at 21%. Inflation is running officially at 8.9%, but it's thought to be much higher. And then there's the demographic crisis that you have more old people than young people because people are fleeing the country. These are all critical. Oh, and you can't get migrant labor to come in anymore because every time something happens, you corral a bunch of them and blame them for it and execute them. Like what's going to happen to the guy that they're blaming for the Kirillov assassination. It is extremely unlikely that that Uzbek man, a Central Caucasus person, just like the Crocus Hall people, is actually responsible for the assassination of Kirillov. And there's good reason to believe he is innocent. With them rounding up migrants the way that they are and either sending them to the SMO or blaming them for other crimes, they're having a real hard time getting migrant workers in. And that's just exacerbating all their problems. They're already shy 1 million workers. Right now, see, Blue Ariel Silk says this about the people in Russia. I assume that this is about the people in Russia. I can tell you that my friends there have no real hope. They make no plans for the future. Those are people who are paying attention. Lars, you might be confusing the interest rate with the inflation rate. So according to the Russian central bank, the core interest rate is 21%. Now, according to the same bank, the inflation rate, the last I saw it was at 8.9%, I want to say, for November. I think it was at 8.9% officially. But we know that that number is bullshit because the price of potatoes is up 73%. So if we turn to the Hankey's guide at Johns Hopkins University, if I'm not mistaken, Hankey is reporting real inflation inside of Russia at 27%. 27%. And he would be the most authoritative person outside of Russia to set that number or report that number. Yeah, we talked about the Azeri flight having been shot down by a Russian pantsir. Is this full of bots, Peter, or just kind people? Generally, I think the people in the comments are real people. I would vouch for Bobby. I would vouch for Chef Deb. I would vouch for Laddie, Cheyenne, Blue Ariel Silk. They're all people. Now, this Michael Daly, he asks a lot of questions that I'm curious about. What happens if Putin loses? That is a great question. Yes, F and hell, we know about you. If Russia is actually defeated, one thing we know for sure is that it's the end of Putin. Most likely, he will simply fall out a window or be served a cup of plutonium tea. It is also possible depending on, see, this is what I keep thinking. And I know I'm crazy and I'm stupid and I'm naive and I'm overly optimistic and there's no way that anything like this is going to happen. But I keep thinking the Russians have been hit hard in their supply chain and in their storage of ammunition, right? All kinds of ammunition storage has been blown up. So much so that the army that was firing 10 shells to 1 a year ago is today firing 3 shells to 2. So it's it's almost shell parity, right? Now right now the Ukrainians are getting stocked up. The Americans are sending a bunch of shit. The EU is sending a bunch of shit. The British are sending a bunch of shit. Just suppose that America does what it says it's going to do and delivers 200,000 shells to Ukraine before the 20th of January. Now, at 2,000 shells a day, that's 100 days worth of shells, right? Suppose Ukraine fired 6,000 shells a day, double what the Russians are sending at Ukraine. Even if you could do that only for 30 days instead of 100, what kind of an impact would that have on the front line? The already poor morale of the Russians, the lack of food, the lack of water, the lack of supplies, and if the weather turns colder, and they're getting pummeled day and night, 24 hours a day, oh my God. It could be, Julian. It's a big risk. Because if the Russians hang in, then you just went through 100 days of shells in 30 days. But if they break, and I think they're pretty brittle. If they break, right, artillery doubled like that with 10,000 drones a day, it could. It could. Now, again, look, that's not going to happen. I'm making that all up in my head because I want so badly for Ukraine not to survive, but to win, to defeat this aggressor who has flaunted every convention of the post-World War II world that leads to prosperity for all. That's what I want. And Pete, I have no idea when the real turning point will come. It can't be more than 8 months away, though. All the economists, the vast majority of the economists, the consensus among economists, is that Russia can't do this financially for another 8 months. It can for about another 8 months. And then they're in trouble. So we could certainly say that August would be a crisis point. But I think some other black swan event or some other thing we can't quite see, like the Ukrainians developing a long-range drone that can hit Moscow and starting to pummel Moscow. Can you imagine if the Kremlin burned, what the response from the Russian people would be? I don't know. When do you think? Okay. Nor can they at 18% interest on an IT worker salary. There's nobody that's giving an 18% interest rate anymore. It's the overnight bank rate is 21%. If you have a mortgage, mortgages are starting at 29%. Can you imagine? I mean, it's no wonder we're going to see record bankruptcies next year. Russia moved all of their means of production into Russia in mid-2010s. Yeah. Yeah, Julian, I hope so too. I hope it's earlier than that too. If Trump doesn't give away the store, Putin will fold. Is that possible? It is possible. It is possible. Now, when we say Putin will fold, what that means is he'll be folded into a coffin by his own people. I can't see how Russia stays together after this. I don't believe that the Russian Federation can survive this. I am hoping no later than August of 2025. That would be my guess. Yeah, no, they definitely haven't spent the money to maintain their nukes. They spend for every $5 we spend to maintain our nukes, and we don't have as many as them. They spend one. They spend one, which is why the general consensus among analysts is that none of the tactical nuclear stockpile is still working. The strategic long-range ballistic missiles, those nukes are likely working. But the tactical nukes, no. They either used the original layer cakes used a lithium deuteride fissile trigger, and that had a half-life of 12.4 years, if I'm not mistaken. They haven't refreshed those. None of them work. Definitely not. I don't know if they're missing nukes, Julian. There was some concern about that in the 90s. It's still a concern today, should Russia fall apart. But there's some pretty good oversight from the IEAE on that. And I don't think that they've noted anything missing. Bip, look up the half-life of lithium deuteride, would you? See if I'm right. See if it's 12.4 years. I just want to know for sure. Because I don't want to be talking shit up here and then be wrong. Is KK gone? I don't know who KK is. Actually, I used to have a buddy named KK. KK Gordon in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's a playwright. He wrote some good plays, that kid. Oh, Michael Daly, wouldn't that do your heart good? Sorry, I just turned into Maureen O'Hara. Whatchamacallit, what Michael's referring to is in 1917, 2 million Russian soldiers just walked off the battlefield, gave up. Now, the problem is, in the movies, it happens all at once, right? In reality, it took about 8 months. So we're not in history class. There's already 18,000 people the Ukrainians believe have deserted their positions in the southern military district. So down in the Kherson region in Crimea, 18,000 troops are said to have walked away from their positions. Hey, Dawn Patrols, Mimoho. Mimoho. I think I know you, right? We've corresponded. That's, what are your initials? MH. If you're using that handle, I don't want to use your real name. Ah, damn it, it's 12.32 years. And I said 12.4. God, I'm such a fraud. Oh, they can't fix the payload issues. I know you're talking about Oreshniks. You're talking about the Oreshniks. Not only that, because Putin was talking about these a little bit this weekend, I noticed. And I think he's really worried now because he was bluffing with the Oreshniks, right? He was bluffing with the Oreshniks, but he really thought he was going to have them soon. Only then the Ukrainians blew up the rocket fuel plant, and now it looks like he's not going to get them. The way that he was talking and he was looking away and looking down when they asked him about intermediate range ballistic missiles, he was not bragging about the Oreshniks. He wasn't threatening to turn Kyiv to dust, yada, yada, yada. The Oreshniks have problems. The biggest problem is that they don't exist. He doesn't have them. And that's a problem. They have a payload problem. They haven't solved the payload problem. They're meant to carry nukes, not conventional weapons. So you can't get as much TNT in there to do the kind of damage that you would if you were, using plutonium. So I don't know. I don't know that Putin is going to have Oreshniks anytime soon. And even if he did, I don't know how effective they would be. CF in hell. Hope she's feeling well. Is Russia opening bases in the Arctic in preparation for the opening of a Northwest Passage? Yes, Linda B. They are making extensive and aggressive moves in the Arctic. As the Arctic thaws and it becomes more workable, they are certainly right there trying to capitalize on it. Have a good weekend, Whit. Okay. So, guys, I think we've been on for almost an hour here. Hell yeah. No worries, Bip. We're friends forever. I don't think he's clowning about Greenland, Linda. I don't think he's clowning about it all. And I have to tell you, he's not wrong. Greenland could be a huge strategic asset for the United States. You know that that's where all of our early warning missile detection shit is, right? Like, if you want to keep an eye on Russia, where do you put your radar? You put it in Greenland, because those missiles are coming over the North Pole, because we live on a spherical Earth. Just in case anybody here is a flat earther, let me dispel your bullshit right away and mention that we live on an oblate spheroid. We are not on a flat Earth. And that's why our missile detection systems are in fucking Greenland. Good night, Eli. And so there's that. Strategically, Greenland could be quite important to the United States. I don't deny it. And then there's the great, vast, untapped mineral wealth of Greenland, which as the ice sheets melt becomes available, like with that phosphorus and lithium deposit that was recently found up there. That phosphorus deposit could be worth $1 trillion. So you can so frankly, I understand Greenland. I mean, I think it's insane for the United States of America to embark on an imperialistic colonial campaign like it's fucking 1797. Please. But you can understand why he'd be interested in it. That's legitimate. I don't know why you don't think he's serious when he talks about starting a war. I think he's completely serious. Believe him when he tells you who he is and what he wants. The Earth is flat. I even used a level to confirm it. You know, dude, that is really the funniest thing, because you know the flat earthers have a bunch of experiments where they use levels to try to prove that the Earth is flat. And it is a riot, man. It is a riot. These fucking guys. The fucking Egyptians, 7,000 years ago, circumnavigated around Africa and proved that the world was a spheroid from watching the stars. And now we have to talk to these people who think that's all bullshit. How ignorant do you have to be? Did you see they went to Antarctica? Who went to Antarctica? Everybody's got a mission to Antarctica. Yeah, who doesn't? Okay, guys, my little puzzle box piece just came up. So that means this version, we've been going for an hour. So I'm going to call it a night. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning here. If anybody wants to help me out, the PayPal's in the description, or better yet, please join my Patreon. You know, with TikTok being so unreliable today, I'm creating more and more on the Patreon that's only for the Patreon. Only you guys over there get to see it in real time. Everybody else is delayed at least 12 hours, or they never see it at all. So, and you can get a free subscription to the Patreon. It does not cost any money. Please join me on the Patreon, as well as Blue Sky and Threads and what's the other one? The one that Musk owns, whatever he calls it now, Twitter. I'm on there too. Have a good weekend, Chef Deb. Thanks, Bonnie. Have a good night. Thank you, Feisty. Nice to see you, Feisty. Thanks, Arn. On Patreon, I think I'm Pyotr, Pytor Alexievich. But, well, the link is in my bio. If you just go to the bio for the TikTok, the link to my Patreon is right there in the bio. And that link should work. If it's not working, text me that it's not working, please. Okay. Yeah, that looks like it, Cheyenne. At Peter Alexievich on, and really probably the best thing to do is download the Patreon app, make an account for yourself, and then go in and search for Peter Alexievich. Da? Dobre? Good night, Norton. Shaquille Oatmeal. Shaquille Oatmeal. Shaquille, what do you mean it's not working? What'd you do? Thanks, Mike. Have a great weekend, pal. Yeah, no, it's a good handle, right? Shaquille Oatmeal, I like it. Good night, Linda. Take care, Jeff Robbins. Thanks a lot, pal. The link won't allow you to join? I don't understand I mean, you're talking about Patreon? Thanks, Laurel. Thanks again, Laurel, for sponsoring tonight's live. Thanks again to the moderator team, best moderator team on the Tickety Talk, Cheyenne, Vanetta, PT, Jay, and Travis. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, and Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. Aloha, Scott. So I'm confused because the link on my page should take you to Patreon, but then Patreon won't let you join? Do you have unpaid Patreons or something? Did you have a problem with it? Try downloading the app. That's what I do. I download the app and then look for me in there. So thanks, everybody. Hutmus asks, how can American businesses help Ukraine recover post-conflict? Hutmus, there are as many answers to that question as there are entrepreneurs thinking about Ukraine. I mean, it's a pretty long list. There's a fortune to be made putting soda and water dispensers on hotel room floors. There's never a soda machine on a hotel room floor in this country. There is a fortune to be made in soda machines. There is a fortune to be made in handicapped accessibility, because after the war, there's going to be so many guys in wheelchairs with one leg, with no arms. I mean, it's not good. I think they're talking about 60,000 amputees so far in this conflict. So there's going to be, in the United States, we have the Americans with Disabilities Act, so everybody has to build so everybody can access your building. That has not been the case here. It's a bitch. People are going to need to upgrade their properties to allow handicapped access. And there's going to be a fortune to be made in building ramps. Decent pizza. If you had a decent pizza that you could franchise here, you could make a fortune. Same with fried chicken. There's no good fried chicken in this whole country. You go to fucking KFC, they don't have breasts. You can't get a chicken breast. They don't have thighs. I guess it's thighs. All they have are legs and wings, which is so weird, right? What else have I thought about in terms of making a fortune here? Scrap metal, of course. If you could get one of these... Now, the problem with the scrap metal collection here is that you also need a sapper. You need a deminer and somebody who's an expert in ordnance disposal. But if you had some ordnance disposal experts and a couple of trucks and a fucking electromagnet, there's a fortune to be made in scrap metal. So I don't know. Put a plan together, man, and then put your plan together and figure that out. I have EOD. End of day? What's EOD? Oh, is that one of those where you can work for the Department of Defense? Like you have a DOD contract? Oh, somebody knows. It's a dating app. Bobby, you are single-minded. You have explosive ordnance disposal. Dude, you could come to this country right now and get a job. Well, I don't know. You don't speak Ukrainian. But the Halo Trust is hiring 10,000 deminers. They've got 2,500 hired so far. I was just talking to Paul Smith from Halo about this a couple months ago. They had 2,500 hired then. And they're looking for another 7,500. And they figured those 10,000 people have 10 years of work ahead of them. Yeah, Lars, you could do that. So I'm not sure, Hutmus, that answers the question exactly. But for any entrepreneur, it's my belief. Now, nobody knows the future, right? And I could be wrong. Maybe I'm all wrong about Russia. Maybe Russia is wrong. Russia will crush Ukraine. But I don't think so. Thanks, Aaron. Aaron just sent me a rose. Now, Aaron, I'm not trying to take the piss out of you, pal. But I've talked about this before. And it's nice to get a rose, whatever. I feel pretty, thank you. But do you know what that puts in my pocket? 0.1 cents. One rose is worth 1/10 of a penny. My live last night, somebody sent a Galaxy. They're $5. My live last night was $5.64. So without the Galaxy, my live would have been 64 cents. These gifts are bullshit. TikTok keeps 60% of the money you spend on them, and we get 40%. And they have no value. I would much rather you join my Patreon and kick me $5 a month and got access to all that Patreon content that I create just for my Patreon members. I would much prefer that, frankly. All right, well, regardless, I thank you for the rose. Thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate that. And if you haven't seen my News We Are Waking Up To segment, which is like the morning news roundup in your inbox every day, I put quite a bit of effort into that. And you can get a free subscription too, right? Like it's not, I mean, it's great if you can kick me $5 or $10 a month, but if you can't, you get a free subscription. Bobby, I don't have any idea what Trump is going to do. And I think anybody who claims they know what Trump is going to do is fooling themselves or trying to fool you. We're just going to have to wait and see. Patreon is the way to go. Yep. Yeah, Lars, I'm not so sure the legal system is out of his control. I'm really not. The Supreme Court is packed with partisan hacks that he put there. I mean, when was the last time that a single president, if it weren't for Mitch McConnell holding up Barack Obama's last appointee, if it wasn't for that, I mean, I don't know the last time that a sitting president got to appoint 4 members of the court. Holy shit, that's like unprecedented. It may be unprecedented. I'm not sure. Okay, so lithium deuteride, half-life of 12.32 years. I'm going to remember that. Everybody else, thanks so much for hanging out. If you can, please join the Patreon, free or otherwise. And if you're feeling very generous and have a little money after Christmas, the PayPal is in the description. Anything is appreciated. Thanks. Take care, everybody.